Hello, friends. Jocelyn and Diane here for La Prensa of Austin. Today we have the pleasure of welcoming our new friend, filmmaker, award-winning filmmaker, Mario Bobino. And he has made a movie called My Culture. And he's out of Oakland, California. They call him the Spike Lee of Oakland. So his newest film, which is My Culture, is out on Amazon On Demand Prime, and it stars as the protagonist, actress Elena Esther, and she's also an award-winning actress. So here for you, I present to you Diane and Mario.
How you doing? Thanks for having me on your platform, and it's also on Tubi TV, so you can watch it for free on Tubi TV. And that's the poster right there behind me, my backdrop. So therefore, you won't have a hard time finding the film. As long as you see that poster, you know that's the film.
So Mario, I'm just going to ask you some questions, and thank you so much for being here today with La Prensa. I have a question. Well, what has life been like? I mean, I know it's been crazy for everyone, but what has life been like for you as a director?
You know, ups and downs, smiles and frowns, pretty much. The bottom line is filmmaking is a passion of mine. So, you got to take the good as well as the bad, and you got to just kind of do your little mixing it up and make the best of it. For me, it's been pretty much, I would say, on the positive, or this may throw both of you ladies off. My film career has been better than some and worse than others. How's that? That's how I'll say the filmmaking life of mine has been better than some, worse than others. So I would consider myself right there in the middle, because definitely being an independent filmmaker, definitely has its struggles. So like I said, better than some, worse than others.
With that being said, could you maybe walk us through a day in the life of Mario, the director these days? Like when you're on set, can you share a little bit of your experience with that?
Well, for me, I wear so many hats because I am an independent company. So we're not dealing with a big company that has a big budget. So I just can't walk onto my set and just direct. I have to locations, wardrobe, craft services. There's so many things that make movies that you're responsible for. And for me, I have to be on top of everything, even though I do have people that assist me, like my producer, Shirley Sharp and Jocelyn Hudson Brown. Both of them do all my paperwork to make sure all the political stuff is in hand. But besides that, I have to go out and hire like a DP, a lighting director. Obviously, I have to go through somebody, or I'll do it myself, casting. So being independent, you have to be on top of all those phases of making movies. And for me, I got to kind of like, as a director, to me, directing is so easy, because directing is all about getting inside of the heads of the actors and having them portray that particular character. And that's easy for me to get inside anybody's head to make them feel good about portraying a particular character, whether good or bad. But the difficult parts is, like I said, setting everything up. Like, for example, you're on a movie set and you do everything to set up this particular location, but then somebody may show up late and then that throws everything off, or you may have some type of a small problem on the set. So I have to be this person who calms everything down, because I'm definitely a people's person. So making films for me on the life of Mario Bobino is not easy, but I will say everybody cannot handle that particular task, but I'm good at handling those type of tasks, but it's not easy. The life of Mario Bobino on the set of a movie is 24/7. Prior to, you always got to think things out, how you want things to go. Obviously, when you're doing independent films, you have this vision that you want it to go a particular way, but then you get on the set and anything can happen. I mean, oh man, where people's come in to watch, or people are making noises, when you're trying to record. So you just have to deal with all those facets of filmmaking. And I enjoy it, but it's not easy, but I enjoy it. So like I said, it has its ups and downs, but for the most part, is whatever project we're filming is, at the end of the day, it's like, wow, we did it. I don't know how we did it, but we did it. You have to try to figure out a way to make it get done. So that means you're dealing with so many people, so many different attitudes. You really can never show like disappointment in people. You know what I mean? Like for example, I remember we was doing My Culture, and I was paying people, and a couple of times, my actor would show up late, and it's like, it kind of just made the set a little tension because everybody else was there like hours before, you know what I mean? But me, I'm upset, but when I see this person, I can't be like, because then that's gonna mess up the whole set. So you kind of like got to kiss a little bit of ass, if you know what I mean, just so you can get through it. But you just take a note of like, this person showed up late, you know what I mean? But that comes with everybody when you're an independent filmmaker. Even though everybody's waiting and somebody shows up late, obviously you're pissed because we've been on set for a whole hour waiting for this person, and you're calling the person, I'm en route, what's your ETA? You know what I mean? So once they show up, you can't be like, where are you at? You can be like, hey, how are you doing? Thank you for coming. You know what I mean? So therefore you can get inside their head. So therefore they can portray the character that's in the film. So like I said, ups and downs, but for the most part, it's exciting and very rewarding.
There's another question that I absolutely have to ask you. With the film My Culture having such a solid Latino cast, is there a particular bit of affection as a filmmaker you have for Latinos and Latino audiences?
Yes, well, I grew up in Oakland, and I went to St. Elizabeth Elementary School, which is pretty much a predominantly Mexican, strong Mexican base. And my neighborhood was a strong Mexican base. It was blacks and Mexicans pretty much. So, and I just always, like my neighbors, they would invite me to their quinceañeras, the birthday parties as a kid growing up. And it was just so much fun. And then we would invite them over to ours. And it was similar, but it wasn't similar. You know what I mean? So I could basically say, even though I don't really know Espanol as much as I should know, but I kind of just grew up fascinated with their culture and their struggles, and respected it and admired their culture. So when I made this particular film, I just thought about how Oakland, the Bay Area, is predominantly, Mexicans and blacks. And then I started noticing, which is really weird, has nothing to do with the question you just asked me, is I'm a retired youth probation officer. And when I was institutional probation officer, and it was mostly Mexicans and black kids. And when I would go and check the kids' rooms, because you got to always check the kids' rooms to make sure they don't have no contrabands, all the black kids had Mexican girlfriends, and all the Mexican kids had black girlfriends. I'm like, wow, this was like 5 years ago. And I was like, man, this will make a good, interesting movie, because I see so many, and then in society today, I see so many Mexicans and blacks dating each other, marrying each other. So I said, you know what, this would be great for a film, because we do have a lot in common. And I think both races are beautiful races. I like how we encompass our race, the things that we do, like the quinceañeras, the parties, and just how, we just get along. So that's what made me make this film was, and then I think that it needed to be made, because you still have prejudices on both sides, like some family members, like, why are you messing with that particular race? You should be sticking with your own race. But as we get older in today's times, I always tell people when I was talking to my kids inside the institution, it's like, I like this person because this person makes me happy, opposed to me being forced to be with somebody that's a part of my race that we're arguing all the time. And that's in general now for me, is be with somebody who makes you happy. And when I made that particular film, I just saw the youngsters and the people in society, because I'm a people watcher. So whenever I would see these mixed races together, they just seem so happy. And I'm talking about at fairs, concerts, they just seem very happy. And I said, you know what, I like that. Now, don't get me wrong. You have a lot of people in the Mexican and black race that don't want to see the races get together, but I think they could because they're bitter. But for the most part, be with somebody who makes you happy. And like I said, both cultures are very proud of their cultures. You know what I mean? And that's what kind of prompted me to want to make the film. And then not only make it, what I like about this particular film is once people see it, it brings up discussion. And that's what, I wanted to do with my film, is make sure people have a discussion about races. And if you have a discussion about races, it makes you understand races a lot more better. It takes away the prejudiceness. And that was my goal with this particular film.
Wow. I noticed you're a big Oakland Raiders fan. I saw your interview with Derek Hill, which reminds me of many interviews that I've seen with Spike Lee. I mean, everybody knows that he loves the Knicks. And it feels like there's a lot of through lines with your work and Spike Lee's work, where you address a lot of the same issues. I can totally see the comparison between the two of you and why it's been made. Has Spike Lee inspired you as a filmmaker?
No doubt. Let's say, like I said, if you was to cut me, I would bleed silver and black. And before I go back to the Spike Lee question, growing up in Oakland, the Raiders was heavily involved in the community. My elementary, junior high, and high school, they would always come and talk to us, and here I am as a kid, and I'm like, oh, that's Gene Upshaw, that's Cliff Branch, that's Fred Biletnikoff. These guys, Phil Filippiano, they would come and they were so embedded in the community, and as a kid, you embrace that. Now back to Spike Lee, my senior year in college, he came out with the movie She's Gotta Have It. And I saw it was in black and white, and I was like, man, that's cool. There's an independent film that's not backed by this big production company, Warner Brothers or anything like that, Columbia Pictures. So when I saw She's Gotta Have It, I was really inspired by Spike Lee's work. So when I saw that kind of gave me inspiration. Like, you know what? I know what he did was not easy. I know, but I'm out here on the West Coast. I'm gonna try and make an attempt. And then after I saw She's Gotta Have It, when I came back home to my hometown, Oakland, from college, one thing I did is I used my resources. I graduated from Oakland High School, and my first film was about City Life, which is about friends reuniting. Or no, it was about my high school experience, my 12th grade year. So I went back to my high school, Oakland High, and I was still cool with the principal and my English teacher, Miss Sattersfield and Miss Smith, Brenda Smith, and they allowed me to come and talk to the class and ask them if they would be extras in my film. So, I was able to go back to my high school and make my first film, which I call my thesis, called City Life. It's on YouTube. It's on my webpage, YouTube page. It's called City Life. Now, we did shoot it on video, but what makes me so grateful for that particular film is I was able to use my high school. In the class of '89, they all participated, and I was so overwhelmed with how many students that actually showed up, because we filmed on Saturdays, all day Saturday from like 7 in the morning to 5, how all these students showed up. And at the time, I didn't know about craft services, and I didn't have any money. So I said, hey, can you guys please come help me out? I'm doing this film called City Life. Can you guys please bring bag lunches? Because I couldn't afford the, craft services when you feed everybody. So all these kids were showing up with their bag lunches, and we had such a great time. But it was shot on video, so the quality's not that, a VHS camcorders, as a matter of fact. But that brings back so many memories for those kids showing up on a Saturday, bringing their lunches to be in this film of mine. And it was pretty good. But like I said, it was shot on video. The audio was horrible in some areas because I was using the audio from the actual camera. But so Spike Lee inspired me to do that. So I've never met him. I'm looking forward to meeting him one day. And now it's kind of interesting because now you have 1,000 filmmakers, if you know what I mean. But back in the days, I was the first person in Oakland to actually start doing films, which was back in 1989. Yeah.
That's awesome. Let's talk a little bit about your film Cahoots. There's a compelling focus on people kind of turning on each other and working with other people.
Yeah.
Can you tell me exactly what attracted you to that story?
Wow, that's a good story. Now, remember, I'm from Oakland. So Oakland has a TV station. The Oakland Unified School District has a TV station called KDOL. And when I was in Oakland at the time, I saw that they had a void in sports. So I went down there, talked to the station manager at the time, which was Noel Gallo, who's a city council member now. I said, hey man, you guys ain't got no sports. Can I somehow contribute what I know about sports and help the TV station out? So I started doing sports down there, and then Noel left, and then my friend Robert Lamone became the station manager. And me and Robert Lamone are around the same age. He grew up on a different part of Oakland, but we kind of bonded, right? And it was so funny. I mean, not to talk about really Cahoots that much, but you know, Cahoots was about two friends going into business doing porn movies. So when me and Rob was at KDOL, I was like, hey man, we should start doing some skin flicks. You know what I mean? Because we had all this equipment to our, you know, exposable to us. You know what I mean? Had access to it. So, you know, we never really did it, but we talked about it. We joked about it. And remember, I am a filmmaker. So I said, hey, I'm finna write a script, because me and him became really close. Robert Lamone is Hispanic. What's up, Rob? And so I wrote a movie about that. So it was about me and Rob, you know, working at this public access TV station during the day, doing all the things that you're supposed to do. And then at night, we're sneaking out, doing these porn flicks. And that's what the movie was about. And I was very fortunate, very fortunate. I started making a name for myself out here in Oakland. So a lot of people knew about me. I was doing a lot of musical videos and things of that sort. So when we did the movie, when we casted for it, I was fortunate enough to Money B of Digital Underground, you know, the Humpty Dance. Oh, Money B, he's, you know, he somehow, we're all from Oakland and we seen each other at the store. I was like, hey man, he says, hey, ain't you to do that Beyond KDO? I'm like, yeah, man. I said, hey man, I'm trying to do a movie, man. Would you be interested in being a part of it? He says, yeah, man, I respect and like your style. So I said, hey man, I want you to portray me in this movie, you know? So having Money B in that movie, and that was Money B's first feature, and we shot that movie in 1999. And I just remastered it. So now it's available on Amazon On Demand, and it should be on Tubi within a month. We're working out that right now. But I was so fortunate enough to get Money B to portray me in this movie. So if you guys ever see Cahoots, Money B is portraying me in the movie. And the character Alex is portraying Robert Lamone. But like I said, it was just me and Robert the same age. So me and Robert Lamone had the same energy. And KDOL, I was from KDOL from 92 till 2015. Rob retired in, I believe, 2010, but we had the best of times. And to this day, like, you know, when I got married, he was my best man in the wedding. So we had a very beautiful bond. So when it comes to Cahoots, very memorable because it was about, you know, two friends, which was me and Robert Lamone.
That's awesome. You established Debonair Productions in 1988.
Yes.
What was that like for you? Did you start it alone? Did people in your community receive your production company well? Tell us what starting a production company is really like.
Wow. Well, first and foremost, I was fortunate enough. The Lord blessed me because when I first came out of college, I met the director for KTVU Channel 2, Fred Zender. Channel 2 is a very popular TV station in Oakland. And I was able to get an internship right out of high school. Right out of college. So as soon as I graduated from college, I spent a whole year at Channel 2 understanding the importance of television. And I got so lucky because I met my mentor, William Bill Moore. He was the head cinema photographer at Channel 2. So he was a Black man. And at that time, there was hardly any Black people working at Channel 2. So I identified with this man and we bonded. He became my mentor. And he said, so what do you want to do, Mario? And I was like, you know, do you want to really be in the news or do you want to make movies? I'm like, I'm honest, I want to make movies. So he says, well, if you want to make movies, this is what you're going to have to do. And he says, you can go to Hollywood. And I'm like, well, I really don't want to go to Hollywood. I kind of like it here. So he says, well, you know, you need to start your own company. So I was like, wow, okay, company. So I did research on companies, and I'm very fortunate enough to have a friend who played high school football with me, who also was 1 year younger than me. His name is Lionel B. And Lionel B worked with Bill Graham. Bill Graham was somebody who did promotions, concerts, and things of that nature. So Lionel B started working for Bill Graham. And now he's a big time concert promoter. So I got in contact with Lionel B and I said, hey, Lionel B, man, I want to start a company because he already had his company started. So he told me exactly what it takes to start a company. And he wrote down like 20 things that you have to do. And I was like, wow. scratching my head. And I'm like, I could do it because I have the energy to do it. So obviously I reached out to a couple of friends I went to school with, because I'm back in Oakland now. And all them guys was like, yeah, I'm down. I want to be a part of your company. I want to invest money and things of that nature. And they was just all talk except for one person. May his soul rest in peace, Greg Gilbert. I love you, Greg Gilbert. Greg Gilbert, who was also the same age as me, a classmate of mine. We've always been very close. He says, hey, Bob, I really admire what you're doing. I want to invest in your company. So he actually invested in my company. And by him investing in my company, I was able to start my business. And then, you know, I still tried to get other people to invest, but, you know, people was doing this. But so then I got another job in reference to, therefore I could, you know, pay whatever bills needed to be paid from the job that I had, because to run a business is not easy. There's so many taxes, P.O. box, logos, letterheads, just so many things. And then I was able to come across a woman who saw about my company. Her name was Jocelyn Hudson Brown. And she says, hey, I like what you're doing. I want to be a part of that. So then Jocelyn jumped on my company and she took care of all my legal work. And then another woman jumped on, Shirley, Rhonda Wood, Jerry Hodges, who played football with me from at Merritt Junior College. So then I started having people that I knew started to want to be a part of this company. And then we just kind of grew from there. But I will say Greg Gilbert was the first person to invest in my company. Bill Moore is the one who gave me the knowledge about, hey, go out on that ladder and try it. If this is what you want to do, go for it. You're young. And if it doesn't work, you could fall back into the work world. So I jumped on it. He gave me the business attitude that I needed to be an entrepreneur in the filmmaking world. And then everything else fell into place. But without Fred Zender, I never would have met Bill Moore. Without Greg Gilbert, I wouldn't have been able to open up the business Debonair Productions. Without Lionel B's knowledge, I wouldn't have known about, you know, how to run and operate a business. Then Jocelyn came in and she made sure that everything that I did was legal. And then Shirley came in and assisted. But it wasn't easy. But if you have positive energy, you're going to start to attract positive people. And that's what I was doing. Even though, I hate to say what I'm about to say, you did have a lot of people that was like, man, why is he doing that? You know, that was hating on me. But like I said, that comes with anything that you do. You're going to have people that don't want to see you be successful. But because of the positive people that I mentioned, they seem to always filter out the negativity in reference to trying to start up a production company.
Wow. I was intrigued by a tag I read that stated that your film Consequences is a homeboy's version of The Big Chill.
Yes.
How do you balance the points you want to make and the stories you want to tell?
Well, when it comes to Consequences was really a pickup of Boys in the Hood. We all remember the great hit Boys in the Hood. Boys in the Hood was about friends that were in high school. Consequences was about once that person graduated from college, we all end up coming back home. So you come back home and then you have friends that you went to school with. They're doing way different things than what they were doing in high school. So Consequences was about a successful athlete coming back home to his hometown, trying to reunite with his friends. And, you know, some of the friends was, you know, Oakland's known for drugs and things of that nature. It's just unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. So this person has to come back home, and one of his closest friends is now in the drug game. And it's like, when you're like 22 years old, and you come back home and it's like one of the people that you just went to school with 4 years ago is now so heavily involved in the drug game. It's so hard to just separate yourself from like your best friend. So there's consequences that go with that. And, you know, I was so fortunate enough to do that movie. Thank Sean Billups and I forgot the other person's name, Sean Billups, and Ken Robinson, they executive produced the movie. But Consequences was a very successful film for me because it ended up getting picked up by Blockbuster and Hollywood Video, and it did really well. Every time we would go into Hollywood Video and Blockbuster Video, the movie would always be sold out. So that movie did really, really well for me. We got good publicity by it. We had a big feature on BET. They came out and did a story on Consequences. We got to premiere it at the Grand Lake. Thank you, Alan and Sean, for letting us use the Grand Lake. We sold out at the Grand Lake. So Consequences, and you know, the good thing about that particular movie and a lot of my movies is I would just place a little ad in the newspaper, because at that time you didn't have the internet at that time. Remember, we're talking 93, 94. So all these people would show up for auditions. So I never had no known talent in my films. So you had people that just wanted to get their feet wet as far as acting is concerned. So we would have auditions, they would show up and they would do a good job. And I'm like, hey man, I want you to be a part of this film. And then we would always have rehearsals. So when people see my movies, they're so authentic to me because they weren't thespians. They weren't people that actually trained in theater. They just was people that wanted an opportunity to act. So I was giving them opportunities. And if you go back and look at all my films, the early films that we talked about, you're going to see some great acting. And that's just from people who like, you know what, I want to be in a movie. This guy's having auditions. Let me go down and audition. And then, you know, the audition and we have rehearsals and they always turned out successful. So I'm the type of person, I always give somebody an opportunity if they never had any experience before. Because we do have rehearsals now. If a person wants to be a part of my production, if they like miss rehearsals, then I won't use them because you have to show me that you really want it. So I'm the person that gives people an opportunity, but it's unfortunate moving forward. I would like to start working with more thespians, you know, people that really train to become actors, that really want to go to Hollywood and put their stamp down, because I kind of outgrown trying to give, you know, people opportunities, which I still will. But you really got to be on your P's and Q's. You really have to be on you got to show me that you really want it. In other words, we're at the point now where if you want to do a movie and you have a regular job, I don't have a problem with that, but you got to commit to me all day. You can't be like, okay, I'm here for 4 hours and then I got to go to work and then you leave, because I've had that problem happen to me before. So I tell people moving forward, hey, I need you all day, because one thing about filmmakers, and which you know about, you can't predict if you have a day set up to film, you can't predict the weather or postponement where we have to start 3 hours later. And there's nothing more hurtful than that person who wants to be in your movie. Oh, well, you said you was only gonna need me for 3 hours. So I tell people now, do not book anything for that day, because I cannot predict what's gonna happen. But normally we try to finish on time, but you never know. So I tell people now, if you're gonna be a part of my production, I need the whole day. Don't talk about you got to go to work later on. But this is what I do during the interview process. I tell a person, hey, if I'm gonna be part of this film, you got to be committed to me for all the days that you're booked for. I need you all day. And if they say, well, I don't know, then I won't cast them.
Let's talk a little bit about your documentary work. For the documentary Zoe, the Real Coach Carter, why is it essential for you to tell the world about this man? How did you meet this man?
Well, remember when I said I started working at KDOL, the Oakland Unified School District's TV station, and I was the sports director? I met a man he was a former dancer for MC Hammer, the famous MC Hammer. He was one of his dancers. And once MC Hammer's career started to kind of falter off, he decided he wanted to go into coaching. And I believe it is 92 when he started coaching. So I really didn't know much about him at this particular time, Alonzo Carter. And he started coaching at his alumni, McClymonds High School. And at first the team was horrible. Then he became the head coach. And then he turned that whole program around. They started winning. And this dude started getting young men scholarships, because he also coached track and he coached football. So when I started to notice, and he became close with me because he would always come by KDOL to get copies. We would go out and we would film. I made it a point that I was starting to start filming all the high school games. So we would give, each school would get a total of 4 games that we would cover. So he found out about me because we would also put it on our TV station. So people was like, hey, our game's on TV. So he found out who was the person behind it. We met, and then I would start giving him copies of the game. And then I started to realize how he started making an impact on a lot of young men's lives. I'm talking about giving men scholarships, and females through track, scholarships to go to college, because we all know college is very expensive. So he did that for so many kids. I call him Operation Education. This is how educated this man was as far as getting these kids out. Not only was he getting these kids out, he was making sure that these kids was taking the proper classes, the SATs and certain scores. He was on them about that. So this man left he left the McClymonds program, went to another school, high school, Berkeley High. He turned that whole program around. Then he ended up moving up to the junior college rankings and went to a school called Contra Costa College, which is in Richmond, who had a horrible football tradition. He turned that whole college around and won championships there. He won championships at Berkeley High. And every school that he went to, kids was getting scholarships that weren't normally getting scholarships. So these kids are getting these scholarships, and these kids are going to these colleges, and these kids are excelling. You know, they're excelling on the football field, and they're getting the degrees, and they're coming back to the Oakland community. So then he gets hired by San Jose State. San Jose State's program was okay, so he goes to San Jose State as a running back coach, and then San Jose State starts to get a little bit better. So then Coach Brennan, the head coach of San Jose State, decides to make him the head recruiting coach for San Jose State. So now San Jose State wins their first Mountain West championship, and it's all because of Alonzo Carter. So then when the pandemic hit, he started putting on these Zoom clinics, and it was so successful. So for me to have footage of this young man when he was in high school, you know, and then he goes to Berkeley High. So I had all this footage. So when the pandemic hit, I was sitting up at home because you know how we were all shut down. So I'm going through all my archives. And I'm like, I got a lot of footage of this guy. So then I give him a call like, hey man, let's do a documentary on you. He's like, hey, Bobino, I'm down for that. So then the Coach Carter, it should be coming out. We're trying to submit it to the Sundance. We just kind of wrapped it up. We're going to be having a screening out here in Oakland, I think like 2 weeks. So when you have somebody from your hometown that's doing something so positive, that's helping kids in the community get a free education through their athletic skills, that was very important to me, because this man really helped a lot of inner city kids who never thought of leaving the city of Oakland to go through places throughout the country, the country, to get scholarships. That was very important. Or I should say the United States, not outside the country. But he was getting kids scholarships to Florida, Texas, Oregon, Seattle. This man has a list of over 300 kids that he has gotten scholarships to. And out of those 300 scholarships, I'm gonna say around 275% of them people got their degrees. That story needs to be told. And he's such a positive person. And the good thing about his story, he grew up in a very poor area of Oakland. He grew up without his father. He grew up in the projects. So to have a kid, he had a son when he was in the 11th grade. So for a person to overcome all these obstacles, that story needed to be told.
Absolutely. I noticed most of your films are heavily based in Oakland. Can you tell me the impact the imagery of your production company has had on your community?
Well, people need to realize I'm born and raised in Oakland, and I feel fortunate enough that Oakland took care of me growing up as a kid. Parks and Rec, the YMCAs, the Boys and Girls Club. There are so many, like I was telling you earlier, not only did the Raiders, the Warriors, and the A's, they would all be embedded into the community. So as a kid, 4th, 5th, 6th grade, 7th grade, you had all these professional athletes that were in the community doing positive things. I played for an organization called the Oakland Dynamites, which is a very popular youth football program. And Oakland, and my sister was a part of the Black Panther Party, you know, so Oakland always had positive things going on as a kid. They used to take us camping. I know how to ride a horse because there were programs that would send inner city kids camping, taught me how to fish, cook. All these wonderful things and opportunities were in Oakland when I was growing up as a kid. And this is in the 70s and 80s, because I graduated in high school in 81. So when you're a kid and you're growing up in a particular city and you're realizing that you're being able to go to all these particular functions for free, the A's would give us free tickets to the games, the Warriors would give us free tickets, the Raiders. So as a kid, you don't really know the importance of what they're doing. So as I've gotten older, I was like, wow, I was so taken care of by being raised in Oakland. It was like Oakland was like one big community was raising me. So when I got older and when I came back, even I was able to get an internship at Channel 2, the most popular TV station in Oakland. Channel 2 accepted me. So as you get older, you start to reminisce like, wow, I was able to do this, and this. And I'm from Oakland. Just like I said, I went back and I started working for KDOL, the Oakland Unified School District's TV station. So I had so many opportunities to be embedded in Oakland and helped by Oakland. So whenever I do films, I want to show the beautifulness of the city of Oakland. That's why I always use Oakland as my base when I do productions, because Oakland really did take care of me. The community took care of me. The people were just so positive. I'm talking about from the people from up in the hills to the people in the flatlands to the people in the ghetto. When they knew Mario Bobino wants to come do a film, because I started becoming very popular in Oakland. I was filming in the worst, as you guys know, barrios in Oakland. We didn't call them barrios, we called them ghettos. I was able to go in there with my film crew, the Jerry Hodges and the Chris Brottons, my brother Mauricio Bobino. These are part of my, Jocelyn, Shirley. We was going into the hood and nobody would mess with us because they said, this is that guy, this is the Spike Lee of Oakland. So for me, whenever I like to film, I always like to use Oakland because Oakland really took care of me. And like I said, wasn't nobody trying to steal our equipment. Wasn't nobody trying to break us, stop us from filming. Oh man, it was just a beautiful feeling. And to this day, Jim McAveen is the film commission. Even he shows me love. So whenever I want a particular location, because that's when I was a guerrilla filmmaker. Everything that I did prior to, we used to sneak and film. And the community embraced me. But as I start to get popular, the film commission head, Jim McAveen, knows who I am now. So now I have to pay for all my locations, but he takes care of me. He makes sure that whatever locations I'm filming at, that I got access to bathrooms and anything of the nature. We also, because I'm not a guerrilla filmmaker no more, I always hire the Oakland police as my security. So, but Oakland embraced me. That's why I always like to use Oakland as my foundation for filming, because I know Oakland like the back of my hand and they know me. So it's just a beautiful feeling to be a part of Oakland and to come back and film in Oakland. Now, I will say this, which is very sad. As I continue to grow, I probably, after my next film, Vilified, which we plan to film next year, I'll probably start filming in other locations because I kind of drenched a lot out of Oakland. So after Vilified, I'm gonna step outside of my boundaries.
Oh, wow. And and I feel like you've already answered this question, but let me go ahead and ask you again. Where do you find inspiration for your films, and how do you then internalize that inspiration to make it your own?
Well, I always had a motto. If it is to be, it's going to be up to me. I find inspiration because this is something that I want to do. And this is very negative that you have a lot of people that don't want to see you become successful in what you're doing. And the reason why they don't want you to become successful is because they're afraid to do what you're doing. To do what I do is not easy. To do what I do you know how many times people have told me no? But because I believe in myself, I'm not taking no for an answer. So my inspiration comes from within, because if nobody's gonna push me, I have to push myself. It takes a lot of meditation because, like I said, every time you leave your house and you want to do something, you always got people that are going to be haters. And I don't know why this exists, but it does exist, and I'm willing to accept that. So whenever it comes to productions and films, I have to have a deep conversation with myself. Are you ready to take on this particular task? Because you know good and well, if you're not going to be the general behind this, this is not going to get done. So my inspiration comes from me. My inspiration comes because I believe in God. I'm a good person, and this is something that I want to do. Other people are like, well, the only way to be successful is you got to go to LA and be a part of some big production company, which I agree with to some extent. But what happens to the person like myself, yourself, who wants to go to Hollywood, but Hollywood rejects you? Hollywood says, hey, your ideal is not acceptable here. So, okay, but you can come work with me and just mop my floors, which I'll mop your floors, but what about my chance? Will I ever be able to get an opportunity? And they keep pushing you back. They keep pushing you back. So your inspiration is going to have to come from yourself, because nobody should tell nobody what they can't do. And I wish I could go to Hollywood and get a big time budget, but every time I try to make some type of connection, that person is always telling you, well, no, you're not really wanted here, or we don't, your movies make no sense. So because you tell me no, am I supposed to give up and quit? You don't know me, but I do know me. So you have to get the inspiration from yourself. And if you have an idea to do something, you have to figure out a way to get it done. And I've always been that type of person to make that happen. Now, I'll be the first person to say, I make the project get done, but did the project turn out the way that I wanted it to? Sometimes it doesn't because I don't have the proper budget. So like I said, certain people are supposed to show up, they don't show up, so then we got to improvise, but I still get the project done. But one thing I will say, whether the film turns out good or bad, one of the greatest accomplishments for anybody is, you know what, at least I finished what I started. So one thing about myself, and I'll try to encourage anybody else, if you have an inspiration or a dream to do something, start it. But not only start it, don't give up when the road gets tough, because road's gonna get tough. Work your way through it, fight your way through it, get it done, because when it's done, it's such a rewarding feeling. All the films that I've done, if people watch them, people's gonna nitpick them. Oh, the audio was messed up. It was kind of out of focus. People's gonna nitpick, but guess what? I got it done. Do you know how many people start stuff that don't finish? So I tell people, if you start something, if you finish it, that's an accomplishment that nobody can ever take away from you. And you always want the reputation of, well, hey, he started it and he finished it. It may not have turned out that good, but he did finish it. Because if you don't finish it, you're gonna have way much more criticism. Oh, they started something, they can't even finish what they start. But if you finish it, that makes you look into the mirror and that gives you more confidence. So that's where I get my inspiration from. I get my inspiration from when I look in the mirror. Mario had an idea to do something and Mario finished it.
Oh. What is your opinion on the value of the film festival? And
Very valuable.
What is your view of the film festival and the initial impact the film festival has on the movie?
Well, first and foremost, thank God for film festivals. Now, as filmmakers, we all want the Sundance or the festival that's the Cannes Film Festival in France. That's what we all want. But like Universe Multicultural Film Festival, there's platforms for films. And nowadays, there's so many film festivals that you can put your film in. And what I tell people is, yes, shoot for the stars, okay? Shoot for the moon, and if you miss, you'll be amongst the stars. And the reason why I tell people is, you may have submitted your film to the Sundance Film Festival, they may have rejected you. But there's this website called Film Freeway. And on Film Freeway, it has thousands of film festivals. So what I started to do is I would look particular for film festivals that cater to my type of film. And thank goodness the Universal Multicultural Film Festival was a festival that I submitted my film in, and it was received well. So that's how I met you. So you want to put yourself in a position and do the research to find festivals that fit your film's need. And the good thing is you submit, you get accepted, and then you get to meet other filmmakers that are just like you, and you guys are sharing the same story. And that's such an inspiration. So I tell anybody, I don't care if you do a movie that's 1 minute long, there's a festival out there that will accept your film. I don't care if you do a festival and the audio's horrible or some of the, and you get into a festival, just be thankful that you got into that festival, because what's gonna end up happening is you're gonna go to that festival, you're gonna meet people just like you, they're gonna share with you their struggles just like you, and that gives you inspiration, because as a filmmaker, you know, you're on an island by yourself. And what I mean by island by yourself is you have an inspiration to do a film, but like I said, the people around you who you grew up with is like, they don't believe in you. Why are you trying to make a movie? But it's like, but this is what I want to do. So when you go to them festivals, it gives you the nourishment that you need to continue to go. And that's why I'm so thankful that there's so many film festivals now, opposed to just them 2 major film festivals, or the SW that's out where you're at. There's huge festivals like that, but you may not get into that festival. But there's other festivals that you can get into where you can go, you can meet people, share ideals, make a connection like I made a connection with you, and you make the best of it. So film festivals are very important. Do your research on the festivals that best fit the film that you did. And like I said, Film Freeway, thousands of film festivals. I mean, I'm getting asked invites to all these festivals that are out the country that know of my film because of the Universal Multicultural Film Festival. So there's festivals out there that can cater to your type of film. And then the good thing, it's unfortunate that this pandemic happened, because we could have had this celebration last year, and then you meet all these wonderful people from outside of the country and you start to network. That's the good thing about being a filmmaker now, is going to a festival, because you're going to meet people that are just like you, that have the struggles just like you. You share stories and you start to make these connections, and you guys continue to inspire each other. So film festivals, for any filmmaker out there, you must get involved in festivals. It's going to help your ego. It's going to help your soul, because if you just stay home and listen to all your critics, you're going to stay in that hole.
And what was your initial response after seeing your first film? What was it about film that grabbed you as an art form?
I'm glad you asked that question. Knowing that I had a vision, knowing that I got it done. Like I said, my first film, City Life, it's on YouTube. I would encourage anybody to watch it. You're going to be laughing because it's the audio. But all the people that was involved in that film, I did it. How many people for their first thesis film out of college can do a high school movie with thousands of people in it? I was able to get the student body to come out and be a part of my first movie ever, where I really didn't know what the hell I was doing. So for me to look back at that film, it's like, wow, I had all these people that believed in my vision. There's nothing more rewarding than that. Now, was there problems? Was there audio problems? Was there some type of cinematography problems? Yes. But guess what? That was my vision, that some kid from Oakland, I'm gonna say Central Oakland because I'm from Central Oakland, had a vision, and his vision is now on a platform where the whole world can see it. There's nothing more rewarding than that, because you sleep and you have a vision, and then, okay, now I'm right. I'm staying up all night writing, right? Now I gotta have auditions. Oakland High let me come and use their auditorium. Thank you, Oakland High. I had auditions in my high school auditorium. So you had all these people showing up to these auditions, the same high school that I got my degree from, right? And then they let me film at my high school. That's something that's unheard of. How many people can go to a high school, go back to that high school, use that same high school to make their first movie ever, and use the whole facility, even though it didn't turn out the way that I had wanted it to? But guess what? At the end of the day, damn, Mario, you did that. So we shot that movie in 1988, 88, 89. And to this day, I still go back and look at it and I'm laughing, because it's like, wow, all these people believed in me, So like your film, the people that believed in you, that was in your movie, you're going to remember them people to the day you die, because as you continue to go on in life, you're going to be like, man, for my first movie, all these people believed in my vision. And only thing that does is continue to give you fire underneath your belt. So whenever I get any type of down about myself, I go back to my first movie, City Life, and I think of all those student body kids, they was a part of the student body that came and was in my movie for free.
Mario, this is going to be the last question because we're running out of time, but you've been a filmmaker since the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s.
Yes.
Have you seen a lot of advances or resources through crowdfunding or social media that you had not seen before? And if so, have you used any of these resources to your advantage?
No doubt. From when I started, now keep in mind, when I started, besides me shooting my first movie on video, I moved to film. So we was filming on film when like the movies, Characters, Consequences, Cahoots, that's all shot on 16 millimeter. So the format has now changed. Now a lot of people are using Red. Now a lot of things are a lot more accessible. Back in my day, the only grants that you can get, there was a company in San Francisco, I'm kind of blanking on the name, that would give grants, but they were only giving grants to specific people. And now there was no such thing as the crowdfunding or anything of that nature. So to me, now is a lot more accessible to get money and to have people get resources than it was back in the day. And I'm gonna tell you the reason why. Remember back when I first started, there was no such thing as the internet. You didn't have this social media platform. You didn't have Facebook. You didn't have Instagram. So it was hard for you to really get out your movie. You had to, like, I'm part of the old school. We would have to go make little flyers and go stamp them to telephone poles. You know, that was how we used to market auditions and things of that nature. We would find out whether there was a concert or something going on. So we would have to go print up these flyers. Jerry Hodges and Chris Broughton, part of my team, we would go and be stapling, to all these particular venues, where now you can go on social media. So to me, we have evolved, and we have evolved in a positive way where, like you said, the crowdfunding and all this stuff, that was unheard of when I first started. But now it's a lot more easier to try to get crowdfunding. It's a lot more easier to get information from somebody through social media. So it's gotten a lot easier, and I'm thankful for that, because what I went through growing up when I first started, it was so frustrating because I couldn't just reach out to somebody like I could reach out to somebody now. I was like it was just really hard to communicate with people. But now I can communicate with somebody outside of the country. So nowadays, I think that a person will have a lesser amount of mistakes because of the social media platform, because there's resources out there that will help you. Now, one thing I will say is it's a lot more competitive. Back in my day, there wasn't really that many filmmakers. Now it's like thousands of filmmakers with thousands of wonderful ideas. So even though a lot of things are more easier and accessible to get to, but you're competing with way more people that are now involved in the business. So you can't get frustrated. You just have to continue to, like, the crowdfundmes, the internet is very resourceful in showing people ways of how to get funds. Nowadays, you can you could type in somebody's name and get their email and, shoot them an email in reference to your idea, where back in the days that was unheard of. So moving forward, I think we're in a much better place, because I think there's so many wonderful stories that filmmakers have, just like your story. I never thought about your story. I mean, when I saw it, I'm like, that was a damn good idea. So now you have all these people with these wonderful ideals, you know what I mean? So I like how we have so many filmmakers, because your stories are stories that I never thought about. But I'm like, that's a pretty good idea. So I kind of like the emergence of all these up and coming filmmakers. I'm kind of very happy that they have resources where filmmakers can reach out to. I need a cinema photographer. I need somebody who can do my lighting. So you have resources where back in my day, it was very limited. And then I hate to say what I'm about to say, and then back in my days, people were very big-headed. Well, if you want to use me, it's gonna, you got to do this and do this and do that. Like, God damn. But nowadays, you have a lot of people that are taking up cinema photography, taking up lighting, that just want to get their feet wet. So they're willing to work with you on whatever budget you got. If you don't have a budget, just put my name in the credits. You know what I mean? So nowadays, by how things are moving now, your resources are a lot more accessible, which is what I'm very thankful and happy for. Like I said, if it wasn't for today's time, I never would have met you.
That's very true. That's very true. I want to thank you so much. And Jocelyn, do you have any last final words?
I do. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with our team. Mario, from the bottom of my heart, I'm so glad that we met you at the film festival, showcasing Diane's film as well, Barrio of Mansions. I'm so happy that you were able to come together with us. Yes. And share so much knowledge. Thank you so much.
And I would like to thank both you ladies for your platform. When I met you two ladies, because we was one of the first ones to show up to the festival, I'm just so glad we got to know each other. And I'm gonna be, from the bottom of my heart, you ladies are some beautiful people, very beautiful people. And I'm so happy that I was able to be on your platform, and we're gonna continue to work together. Because I'm gonna say this, you ladies got very positive energy, and there's a lot of negative energy in the filmmaking business, but you two ladies possess that positive energy, which it makes people like me, gives me more inspiration. And we need more people like you ladies and your platform to communicate with filmmakers like myself, to continue to give inspiration. So we feed off of each other. Thank you ladies for your platform. Wonderful energy.
Likewise, you have very good energy too. Okay, so that concludes our interview, and thank you all for watching.